Question is, how do I manage my finance and how can I improve my financial literacy? Okay, yeah, that is a really important question. Money is a really essential thing. Okay, yeah, it really required to in like it like as a person need to understand that how do you supposed to use your money. Okay, uh okay. So what's a financial literacy? A financial literacy means like that ki you have to understand that ki how the money works. Okay, yeah. There is a two different kind of like people. Okay, poor people and rich people. Both the people can earn the money. Okay, yeah. But what makes them poor and rich is because of that the poor person didn't really know how to make money from the money, and the rich person knows that how to make money from the money. All right. Example. It's a very difficult to understand, but probably you could understand. It's not really that much complicated. So, if you have a salary of 30,000, and but you are kind of like spending so much money on the things that you don't really require, like a expensive mobile phone, a car, or like basically branded clothes and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. When you are try to want such thing which is really expensive, so you try to buy this thing by the EMI. What's the EMI? EMI is a kind of like a some sort of like a loan. Okay, yeah. And you have to pay a little bit amount of money for that particular loan, particular money that you borrow from that particular company or credit card. All right, yeah. um so basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that the person who actually have a salary of 30,000 rupees, but he was spending on EMI almost like 25,000 rupees. Okay, yeah, 25,000 rupees he's paying on EMI, and now he have only 5,000 rupees. So from my point of perspective, that person is poor. Yeah, because like, yeah, and most of the people are kind of like spending so much amount of money on like especially mobile phone. Yeah, because right now mobile phone is not only kind of like required for necessary, sometimes people are used for kind of like a style and something like that. Okay, iPhone is a kind of like a something like a product which represent kind of like a rich person, and 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 most of people didn't really have that kind of like a some sort of value in themselves. So they think that ki owning some sort of branded product like iPhone kind of like giving them like a bigger value of their personality. It added some sort of value in their personality. Okay, so they buy some sort of iPhone and expensive product which is kind of like a something that they don't really need it. Okay, yeah. So so for my point of perspective, this person is poor, and as also this person didn't really know the financial literacy. Okay, yeah. Let's example to the rich person. Okay, rich person means like that I'm not talking about rich as person, no. Like this rich person, he has also salary of 30,000 rupees. Okay, yeah. But he was spending money very wisely. Okay, like first of all is that the one of the most important thing required for him that he wants to buy home for himself. Okay, right now his age is almost like a 25. Both the person has the age of same 25, but it's just like that this rich person has kind of like a mentality that he want to buy a house first. So basically is this thing, he kind of like borrow some sort of money, not borrow, like a loan for home, because in the end home is really essential, and he was paying almost like a 20,000 rupees EMI on that home. Okay, so home is a really essential, it's a really important factor. Shelter is really great. Okay, and if you don't really have any shelter, probably just like that you don't really have value of nothing really at all. Okay, so he was spending money on such a thing where it is really essential for him and as also essential for the future of him too. Okay, yeah. And he was spending almost like a 20,000 rupees on that EMI. But as also is this thing that he was kind of like a learning some sort of skills to make, like learning some sort of skills to be share market, or kind of like a kind of like a SIP. What's the SIP? SIP is a kind of like a mutual fund, some sort of thing. Okay, it doesn't really have that much risk factor, but is that you can improve your money. So like basically it's a kind of like a some sort of FD, but with the higher interest rate. So that person, that rich person, is kind of like a spending almost like a 2,000 rupees on that SIP every month. So unfortunately after the 5 year it will get higher returns. All right. So basically from my point of perspective, this person is rich person because of that he was not spending any kind of like a money on some sort of stuff that he don't doesn't really require. He's spending money on such a thing that he really essential, like home. Okay, yeah. So for me this kind of like a B person is rich person. Okay, yeah. Always need to understand that he don't really buy a some sort of stuff which is kind of like a not an asset. Okay, like I'm gonna tell you two different things. Okay, there is an asset and there is a liability. um rich person always buy assets, but poor person always buy liability. What are those and what is at least this thing? Okay, let me tell you one thing, what is at least this thing. Assets means like that ki it always have a value. Example is that ki, like I really like cars. Okay, race cars. Okay, yeah. So like I decided that I should supposed to be buy Bugatti Veyron. Okay, or Bugatti something like the newest Bugatti Chiron. Okay, yeah. I decided that I wanted to buy this Bugatti Chiron. I bought this car. Can you explain this thing? Like, is this car is an asset or liability? Well, most of people say it's a liability because of that it's a Bugatti car. Okay, probably you don't really use this car because of that. This car has a really top speed, and probably it's just like that. According to the Indian conditions of road, this car is not kind of like a simply able to drive on the Indian roads. Okay, so buying this car is a kind of like a worthless. So it's a liability. Okay, but for me it's an asset. Why is asset? Example, not example by the way. Bugatti Veyron cars doesn't really mass produce. Each car has its own unique number, and they kind of like a, some sort of make such a car in very limited number. Okay, like 100 or kind of like a something really 99 or 43 or that's it. Okay, yeah, yeah. All around the world they just have make only 43 cars. Okay, yeah. So when they have kind of like a very limited number of cars, then probably is this thing their value is up. Like basically is this thing that key the like the supply is less, then the value of the product is great, like a bigger or kind of like a higher. So that's why this Bugatti Veyron is became an asset, and I wanted to definitely spend money on that particular car because this car is not liability, this car is asset. Yeah, so I wanted to buy this thing. Instead of that, like it's really good. Like basically this thing, like I could use this car for do little bit of flash means like that, kind of like a little bit of show the little bit of dominating power of myself. But still this is kind of like a some sort of tertiary thing, but this car is an asset. Okay, yeah. Then what's a liability? Liability is a kind of like a thing that key, like iPhone. Yeah, iPhone is a liability, but there is a two different condition. Okay, like is this phone is liability for you, and like okay, there are two kind of person, A person, B person. Okay, yeah. Both the person has the same mobile phone, iPhone 15 Pro. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna judge according to the usage of their phone and try to understand this phone is liability for what, which person, and asset for which person. Okay, so a person is a kind of like a some sort of common person. Okay, a common person means like that he was working in IT company. He has a salary of almost like a 1 lakh rupees. um, he could afford that phone, so he buy that phone. But probably is this thing that ki 1.5 lakh rupees of phone doesn't he required. Okay, but he just bought this phone just for kind of like impress his client and stuff like that, but that's it. Okay, the most use case of that particular phone is that calling and taking photos, and that's it. A person do just only one thing. Okay, yeah. So probably for him, for a person, that phone is a liability, because in the end that phone is kind of like a doing the same thing that kind of like a normal phone can do. That's it. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk to the B person. B person is a photographer. Okay, yeah. And basically he took photos from like a, he has a camera, but he kind of like a sometimes use phone too. Okay, there is some sort of condition happened that he um like um like he want to shoot something, but he doesn't really allow to shoot. So he has that mobile phone, and he was taking photos from that mobile phone. Okay, yeah. The photo was kind of like a very confidential, very kind of like a some sort of stuff. Okay, yeah. And he pull off that photo from that mobile phone. Okay, and now he was selling that photo to the like some sort of millions of dollars, something like that. So for that condition, it's that phone is an asset. But still, this kind of like a some sort of like a example is a like a very filmy. Okay, okay. Now let's just change the scenario. So there is a B person who is a photographer. Okay, yeah, and he takes photos from the phone. All right, yeah. So he takes photos from the phone. Probably he didn't really have that much amount of money to buy camera. Like basically is this thing he could buy a camera, but it's just like that ki camera is even more expensive. Okay, yeah. So is that he decided to spend money on that particular phone, and he bought that phone, and he was taking photos from that phone. Okay, the photos really good, really great, and he was actually uploading that photos on Instagram or YouTube platform and everything. So then after that, he was earning money from that photos, from that reel that he was creating. All right. So on that particular moment, that B person is kind of like a taking some sort of advantage from that iPhone. Therefore, that B person is a kind of like a something like the iPhone that he own is an asset, not a liability. All right. Yeah. So this is kind of like a some sort of stuff. Do you understand what is exactly liability and assets? Okay. So as liability is a kind of like a things that key a product that you own but you don't really earn money from it, that is called liability. The product that you own and as also you can earn money from it, so that is called asset. Example, like I own gold, piece of gold, like a 10 gram of gold is an asset. Okay, a iPhone is a liability. All right, kind of like a 1 acre zamin is an asset. All right, like 10 lakh rupees car is liability. All right, yeah. So you just have to understand. So I'm gonna ask this question to myself that ki, if like a mobile phone and car and kind of like a stuff that I didn't really earn money from it, so should I not wear it, or should I supposed to not use it, or like what exactly is this thing? Okay, like basically I need a car, so that's why I bought the car. Okay, now you say it's a liability. So like what should I supposed to do? Should I kind of like something like that not use my car? Well, you just have to understand this thing. Okay, liability and asset is a kind of like a concept for people to understand what is exactly is this thing. Example is that key, you have a particular salary and you could afford to buy that particular car, and as also is this thing, as your working thing, you really require that car. So for that particular thing, that car is not liability because you really need it, you could afford it, and you buy it. So this kind of like a condition is represent that this car is essential, so it kind of like a in category of asset, because it kind of like a serving some sort of purpose, and purpose is not earning money, but purpose kind of like a giving you service, like a transportation service, or like basically it's like it's a really needed. So yeah, so it kind of like a giving you little bit of value. So in that particular case, that car is an asset for you. Okay, yeah. But if you are kind of like a person as a retired person, okay, yeah, you are not going anywhere, but you bought the car, okay, then in that particular condition, this car is a liability, because you are not using that much car, okay, like probably once in a month you are going to the trip with your family, but then after that this car is actually staying at your home, and then nothing really at all. So it's a kind of like a liability. So like there are so many people, like then like should we not supposed to use the, like should we not supposed to buy the car or stuff like that, or I don't know, dude. Okay, yeah, it's kind of like a something your personal choice. But I seen that the some people are kind of like a buying some sort of stuff they can't even afford, like an iPhone, or kind of like a something like a car or something like that key, like, and not only kind of like a, like basically this thing, okay, you really required a car but you can't really afford, so buy the second hand car, or buy kind of like a car that second hand car could kind of like a work, okay, because it kind of like a serve you a proper need that you want from that car, that serve that second hand car give it to you, and probably it will cost very less. So it is really win-win situation for you, okay, instead of buying new one, buy second hand. So basically that second hand car is became asset for you. All right, yeah. Then like basically clothes. Okay, yeah. I bought so many clothes. Okay, so I am not really earning any money. Okay, so is that clothes are liability? Well, clothes are not a liability until and unless you are buying clothes a very branded and kind of like a something like that. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing. I have this T-shirt. I'm wearing this T-shirt. It cost me almost like a 300 rupees. I have almost like a four of them. Okay, yeah. Basically is this thing that this t-shirt is not a liability, because of that it didn't really cost me that much, and as also is this thing I really require to wear some sort of thing. T-shirt is one of them, so it's an asset for me. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. Okay, like you are wearing clothes or whatever the clothes that you have, if you are kind of like a spending so much amount of money on clothes, then that clothes it kind of like a became liability. Example is that key, like last year my brother has a wedding and I bought this sherwani. Okay, yeah. And only the wedding I used that sherwani, and then after that I didn't really use it. Okay, it's been almost like a year I haven't really used it. I packed it properly, and then after that I didn't really use it. So this sherwani cost me almost like a 5,000 rupees. Right now it's became liability for me. Okay, yeah, so this sherwani is become liability for me, but t-shirt, this the t-shirt that I'm wearing is an asset for me. Okay, yeah. So you have to understand like a like money, like it's kind of like a some sort of like, I'm not talking about where should you supposed to spend money. I'm talking about that money that you should supposed to be spent on such a thing that you really need it. It kind of like a serve some sort of purpose for you, like a t-shirt for serving a kind of like a clothes that you could kind of like not be naked. Okay, a car for transportation, it kind of like a giving you transportation services. A mobile phone, like not actually kind of like a so expensive, but little bit kind of like a phone which cost me almost like a 10,000 20,000. Okay, which is kind of like a something good. It kind of like a serving me a calling everything. Okay, right now mobile phone is everything. Okay, yeah. So yeah, in my entire life I didn't really bought any kind of like a some sort of liability, nothing really at all. Yeah, sometimes I did. Okay, like example is that the last year I bought the t-shirt. Okay, yeah. And that t-shirt was kind of like oversized for me. Okay, so I returned that t-shirt, but unfortunately that kind of like a something happened with the Amazon services, they don't really return the product and something like that. Okay, so right now I have this oversized t-shirt which cost me not that much, like a 400 rupees, but it's a very oversized t-shirt, and right now I'm not wearing it. So it's a kind of like a something liability. Is it liability? Well, at this moment it's a liability, but after a year might be that t-shirt will fit me and then it will become asset. So yeah, so this is kind of like a some sort of stuff that happened. All right, yeah. But is it kind of like a financial literacy? Like, we are talking about the financial literacy, you're talking about the assets and liability. Is this thing okay? Yeah, because the product that we own really required money to buy this thing, so it include the financial literacy. Okay, because of that key, I don't know, yeah. The person who is not have proper financial literacy, they are kind of like a buying the stuff that they don't really need it, like iPhone, kind of like a really big cars and stuff like that. But it's not gonna good. Okay, yeah. So this is kind called as a financial literacy. You just have to understand which product that you really require and buy that product. Okay, yeah. Like, I'm gonna talk about kind of like the first chapter of financial literacy. Like, there are so many chapters in the financial literacy, like basically the FD, SIP, share markets, and mutual funds, and lots of things. There are so many slabs of financial stuff, but these are kind of like a some sort of basic thing. Okay, and you have to understand that according to the person which kind of like a financial literacy required. Okay, financial literacy means understand what is that assets and liability, and what should supposed to be by that particular, is it asset or is it liability. Okay, so this is it. Okay, so yeah, like as a person should supposed to be understand from the basic level that what is exactly your asset and what is exactly your liability. Okay, yeah. Like a mutual fund, SIP, and FD, these are kind of like a, kind of like a some sort of like a even more kind of like a financial literacy. Like, you are kind of like a conquer this step. Conquer means like that you understand your assets and liability, what kind of like a product are assets and liability. Okay, and you are literally control with that money and everything. Okay, then you move to the next chapter. Next chapter means budget. Like, budget means like that key, how much money that you are spending on which, on where, like how do you supposed to overcome that money, how do you kind of like a control that money. Example is that you are spending almost like a 400 rupees every day on the street food, which is not really good. Okay, yeah, because in the end street food is kind of like a really bad for health, and as also it costs you so much. So how do you supposed to overcome that, so not eat that particular food. Budget is really essential to kind of like a replicate that key, where should you money that spend. Okay, right now there are lots of services, like lots of things are over here, like basically bank statements that you could download from PDF, and you could see that where is this money goes. As also, if you are kind of like a using digital payment like a phone pay or Paytm, then they have probably like a transaction history. You have to look through that and find out that where is this money goes. Okay, budget is really essential. Okay, yeah, you have to do budget and understand where is this money goes. Okay, yeah, these are the like a second chapter. Okay, then third chapter is that SIP, FD, mutual funds. Okay, where should you supposed to spend, like a SIP means like that ki a systematic investment plan. Okay, FD means like that ki I don't know full form of FD. Okay, yeah, but these are kind of like a, some sort of money that you could supposed to spend, so that it kind of like a give you little bit of higher return with low risk. Okay, yeah, and then you go even more further, like a share market. Share market is a kind of like a something even more crazier. In that particular thing, risk is actually involved. Risk means like that you might gonna lose some sort of money too. So you can't, your this suggestion is should not supposed to be for the noob. No, it should supposed to be for the pro people who understand the market, who understand the understand where his money goes, which kind of like a company will grow in the future and everything. Okay, yeah, share market's a lot of thing, and there are so many shares, so many companies, and so many stock markets, and it's a lot of stuff. Okay, so these are kind of like, I don't want to you go to that share market stuff, because it's a very ultra pro level of people. Okay, yeah, but that's a kind of like a something a basic people. You have to understand what is actually your assets and liability, and then try to make budget. That's it. Okay, if you do this thing, your financial literacy is almost like a 50 to 80%. Yeah, like 80%. Yeah, just like I'm not gonna talk about that, but 80% you are controlling your financial, like you are like a best of that. Okay. Yeah, these are like a, just understand what's your assets and liability, and just make the budget. That's it. Budget means like that, I'm not talking about that ki you should supposed to spend money on this travel. No, no, no. Like whatever the money that you are spending, make a list, make a Excel file. Okay. Yeah, and that's it. Okay, understand where this is money spent, and then it will help you. Okay, whatever the money that you are on, it really help you where is this money. And as also you could have a little bit of direction about that ki how much money you should supposed to be spent on next month and stuff like that. All right. Yeah, so I think this is my financial literacy that I wanted to mention over here. All right. Yeah, next question.